Now, Prime Minister Boris Johnson has suspended all of Britain's travel corridors from today amid mounting concern about new coronavirus variants.
Well, it comes as the government's chief scientific advisor, Sir Patrick Vallance, warned some of the new strains may be able to get round the vaccines.
So just how concerned should we be? Professor Beate Kampmann is joining us now, along with her thoughts. And Professor, thank you for joining us this morning. It's great to have you here. And while we're talking about these variants, I guess the one that everybody is most concerned about at the moment is this Brazilian variant, whether or not it's in the country at the moment, and what effect it will have, and is the vaccine going to protect us against it?
Yeah, well, good morning, Holly, Phil, and all the viewers. So nice to get in between the cat and the cheese on toast. So I think for now, we should be absolutely positive about the vaccines having the right level of protection, whilst we're trying to figure out if there is a danger lurking around the corner. Because, you know, the labs are working really hard to figure out whether, you know, the vaccines will be affected. But to date, we don't have any evidence of that. And I can only highly encourage everybody to go and get their jabs.
Some of the doctors have expressed fears over fake news causing South Asian people to reject the COVID vaccine over false claims that the jabs contain alcohol or meat and can alter patients' DNA. This was a big news story yesterday. The BAME community actually beginning to get a little bit worried about this, and it is fake news.
It is definitely fake news. So what we have to assure people is that there's no animal products and there is nothing untoward in the vaccines. There is a minute amount of what we call ethanol, which is 0.0002 milligrams in both vaccines as a preservative. And that is less than in a banana or in a slice of toast that you've just had.
And can it alter people's DNA?
Definitely not. So I think there's a bit of confusion between RNA and DNA, and none of the vaccines has any impact on our genetic code. And it's really important. This has also been made very clear by the British Islamic Medical Association, who've issued statements on both vaccines to highly recommend them to their community. And that's utterly appropriate because that community has suffered really huge damage from the COVID epidemic.
And people are concerned about getting their second jab. And initially, the government was saying it would be 3 weeks, and now they're saying it's 12 weeks. And yesterday, the Foreign Secretary, Dominic Raab, refused to guarantee that that would happen. What's your feeling on that?
Yeah, so when I heard that yesterday, that statement by Dominic Raab not coming down on the second dose really does worry me. I think we need to not just play a numbers game here. We need to look at how many vaccines have actually been delivered to people and how many people are what we would call fully immunized, which means they have to have had their 2 shots to guarantee that they have long-lasting immunity, because we don't want to trade off a quick win with big numbers for a deficit in immunity later down the road. So I think the government really needs to come clear here and say where are the supplies and when are they going to get given the second dose.
And do you think that when it comes to the amounts that we actually hold in this country, that all governments play the cards fairly close to their chest because the entire world wants the virus and they maybe don't want anyone to know how much we've got?
Yeah, so I think there's a difference between ordering vaccines on a spreadsheet and actually having them in your fridges and freezers and ultimately in people's arms. Lots and lots of doses have been ordered. So there's hundreds of millions of doses of vaccines. I think in total 350 million ordered by the UK government. All of the vaccines will come for conveyor belt at the same time, and every single batch needs to be controlled for quality. So we make sure we've got safe product that is consistent in its performance. And I believe the companies are working quite hard to make that happen, but not all vaccines will arrive at the same time. But I would quite like to see a sort of next slide to understand where the vaccines are at the moment and where will they be coming from.
OK, well, as you can imagine, I've got lots of questions for you from our viewers. Sarah's got in touch and she said, can you spread the virus if you've had the vaccine?
So, Sarah, this is a really important question, which we don't have the absolute answer to. The first dose of vaccine gives good protection against severe disease, and this is why it's right that everybody should have it as quickly as possible. But in order to know whether it will stop transmission, there are 2 things we need. One is regular swabs of the noses of people who might have had the vaccine, to figure out if they can still carry the virus. And that can only really be done in controlled studies. And the National Institute of Statistics, for example, will be in a position to answer these questions. And the second one is to look at what happens with the transmission in the society, because if we see cases and transmission and new notifications go down significantly after a huge number of people have had the vaccine, that will tell us it will have an impact on transmission. I think it's very likely, but we need to see how much.
OK.
Very early days, yes. Lisa says, how long will the vaccine's immunity last for? Hi, Lisa.
Hi, yeah, good morning.
Hi there. So, this is something that's been concerning you for a while?
It has, yes. My mum's one of the clinically vulnerable, so I just wanted to know if she's going to be protected for a year and will she have to have the vaccine for life now?
OK, let's find out. Professor.
Yeah, so, the data we have at the moment are from the clinical trials, and some are also from natural infection. So from natural infection, we've learned that immunity lasts for at least 5 months. If we extend the intervals of observation, we'll find out more. And people who have participated in the trials, and it's really brilliant they've done that, we will have their follow-up data for at least 2 years. And people who've been vaccinated will also be followed up. So we will find out. But at the moment, I can't give you an absolute number. We believe it's months and months, but it is quite possible that booster vaccines will be required. And it's absolutely essential that people get their second dose to have the longer lasting immunity.
All right, Lisa, thank you. We've got Marion on the line. Hi, Marion.
Good morning, how are you?
Really good. What's your question for the Professor?
So on that line, mixing and matching. If someone has a Pfizer vaccine in the first round, can they have, for the second inoculation, the Oxford Astra?
So there are no clinical trials that have actually tried that out. And I think until we've got some data that show that that is safe, I wouldn't want to mix and match. It's not a sweetie shop here. We're looking at vaccines which are highly regulated products, and we should really try and use them as they've been trialled and regulated.
All right, thanks, Marion.
Jamie says, I'm nearly 25, trying for a baby. I worry getting the vaccine will affect my fertility. Is there any research on this?
So, Jamie, this is a really relevant question. As you know, there are some other vaccines we give in pregnancy. So we have some data about vaccinating pregnant women. But it's also important to know that these vaccines are quite new. There is no biological reason why they should interfere with fertility. So that's why we've been comfortable in recommending them to women of childbearing age and also to pregnant women, because we don't think that there's going to be an issue.
Louise says, can I have the vaccine with a nut allergy? Is it true that if you have a nut allergy, you should avoid the Pfizer vaccine?
So, Lisa, you're probably thinking about the alarming situation where very early in the vaccine campaign, there were 2 people who had what is called an anaphylactoid reaction. Now, these were people with severe allergies, and they were carrying EpiPens, and then it was stopped for a bit to give the Pfizer vaccine to people with severe allergies. That's now been reversed to a degree, but I'd speak to your doctor about it because I can't tell how severe your nut allergy is. And for sure, you should have the vaccine in an environment where, for example, you can be given an EpiPen injection if this was to happen.
Kelly wants to know, is the vaccine safe when you're breastfeeding?
Similar to the pregnancy question, we believe the vaccine is safe when breastfeeding. We have no evidence that any particles in the vaccine cross over to breast milk, but we are obviously studying this at the moment. And at the moment, the recommendation is that lactation is safe, and you should, in any case, not stop your breastfeeding. It's the best thing you could give to your baby.
Can I just end on this one? Damien says, both myself and my mum have had our first and second vaccine jab. Can we now come into contact with each other?
That's a very good question. So at the moment, the regulation or the recommendation is that people who've had the vaccine still carry on wearing their masks, and especially if you only had the first shot. And I think this goes back to one of the earlier questions, that we can't be 100% sure that there isn't transmission. I would assume that if both people had both jabs, and it's been a while, so you should leave it for a while until your immunity is fully developed, which will be 2 or 3 weeks after you've had your second shot. I would assume that that is safe, but I look forward to further recommendations on that.
Wow, it's a complicated thing, isn't it? Seeing as all of this is so new. Do you feel confident, Professor?
I feel confident about the way that the rollout is going at the moment, and I'm really impressed how that's all evolved. So really, it's great to see how many vaccines have already been given. I would love to see reassurance that people will get their second shot, and with the product that they've been given their first one with, and we just have to push on and to keep on having the other measures in place and not drop our guards or our masks at the moment. This is crunch time.
This does seem, that one point there does seem to be something that you, an expert, the science, seem to disagree with the government on with this second vaccine.
So are you talking about the interval, or are you
Yes.
talking about... Yeah. So, I mean, there are two lines of thought here. There is obviously a need to reduce transmission in the British society and in general around the world. And to achieve that, a vaccine is one of the most important tools. So we need to use these vaccines and get a shot to as many people as possible, as quickly as possible. And I do get that. I think people who are very exposed, for example, healthcare workers in the front line, I believe should be offered protection as quickly as possible. And therefore, in my view, with the Pfizer vaccine, we should have stuck to the 21-day interval. With the AstraZeneca, we've got some data there. It's a little easier to justify.
OK. Thank you. Thanks for your time.